Hello and welcome to our holiday edition of the Baron Earl Show. We have a great guest here who may have to bow out because he's expecting Santa to stop by at some time, just for a few minutes, and then he'll
Seconds.
come back on seconds. He's really fast. He's like
I'm the Flash.
the Flash. I like the Wizard. I think the Wizard is such a great name for a super.
The Wizard. Oh, that's my son Owen's favorite speedster character because he laughs his head off when he goes, "Wait, the guy's name is the Wizard."
I know.
In a yellow costume. Yeah, he thought that was the funniest thing ever. He was like 8 years old and couldn't stop laughing. So.
Oh yeah. No, I was recently thinking about that too because I was listening to something that was like from that era, and they were just using whiz left and right. So it was didn't mean what it does today. But Mike, you want to introduce our guest and how you know this strange person?
Well, Mitch is the founder of TERRIFICon, and that's held at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. I was a guest there 4 years ago. Mitch, did we meet?
For about 5 seconds, Mike, I think I ran by you and I said, I love Nexus and Badger and I got to go. And that's about it because.
Yeah, so hopefully this interview will take longer. But the Mohegan Sun is a remarkable place. It's an architectural achievement. I don't know really how to describe it. But I was blown away. You go there, it's basically a casino owned by the Indian tribe. And the interior is just fantastic. And also the convention facilities are great. It's an enormous room. And I saw a lot of old friends there. And there were a lot of celebrity guests, actors and wrestlers and people like that. And so I want to start by asking Mitch, whatever made you think you should put on a convention?
Well, I can't do anything else. And I can't draw good enough. No, I was a kid and I grew up like a lot of folks with comic books. My dad was in the Marine Corps. He went off to the service. My grandmother, God rest her soul, threw all his books away. So when I was a kid, he bought me some Batman comics and some Shadow comics. And he said, don't ever throw these away. I was like, all right. So I started reading comics when I was like 3 or 4, literally. That's how I learned to read. And then I started drawing and I would draw constantly. And I remember my mom writing a letter to Stan Lee and said, hey, this is my son. That's all he does all day is draw your comics. And Stan wrote back, or maybe it was Mary Severin, I don't know who, or Flo Steinberg. Somebody wrote back a nice card that said, hope to see you at the bullpen one day. Keep on practicing, your friend, Stan and the crew. So I did that, loved comics, grew up, became an art director. First job I was 23 years old. And they said, hey, make it look like a comic book. And I said, you got it. You got the right guy. And I didn't know how the hell to do it at all. And this is 1989, so there's no internet. So I picked up the phone and called New York City and called Marvel Comics and begged them to help me. And then this lovely woman answered the phone in the production department. And she said, hold on, I'll have somebody talk to you. And who answers the phone? But my favorite artist of all time that I wanted to be just like, but John Romita Sr.
Oh, really?
What could I do for you, son? And I said, Mr. Romita, first off, I love everything you've done. I've always wanted to be like you, blah, 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 blah. But now we got to get to work. I got this job. I just got it like 2 weeks ago. I told the guy I knew how to draw comics and make it look like a comic book. I could draw, but I don't know anything beyond that. He goes, all right, get a pen and paper. I'll help you out. So he literally helped me for like an hour. How to do it, how to ink it, how to color it, how to send it to a printer, the whole works. Lovely man. And then years later, I got to go interview there, and they offered me a job, but they only offered me $18,000 a year or something crazy. And I was like, what are you, nuts? I'm making 40 in Connecticut. So I quit, but I always loved comics. Never could get away from it. And every time I did stuff, it was always kind of comic book focused. Long story short, I did conventions. I did advertising. Somebody said, why don't you do a convention about comic books in Connecticut? Because there was none. There was New York, and then there was Boston. And Connecticut's that little spot in between. And JS knows about that because he's from New Hampshire. There's nothing out here. There's nothing but trees and people and a lot of traffic. So I did a show, got 3,000 people to show up at a one-day show at a Marriott. I don't know if that's good or bad. All I had as a guest was Jerry Ordway and Ron Garney because they live nearby. And they showed up. Next year I did it, 5,500 people showed up for a one-day show. I had Mark Bagley, Tom Palmer, and the guy that was the Flash, John Wesley Shipp, showed up. He was nearby and wanted to be here. That was it. The police came. The fire department came because we had exceeded the capacity of safety because it was a wedding banquet hall that was only supposed to fit maybe about 900 people. And we had 5,500 people there.
Who knows?
And we had the streets closed down. And it was in the papers. And there's guys walking down the highway dressed as Superman and Batman. Not the coolest thing, you know. The fire marshal was not happy. The police chief came out and said, "Congratulations for your success. You can never come back to this city again." I was like, there you go. So we went to a hockey arena. They thought I was crazy because I said, "I'm going to do a 3-day show." And the guy said, "Sir, you want to have a freak show? Go ahead." He kept calling it a freak show, Mike. And I was insulted. I was like, "Hey, screw you, man." Because they were jocks. They were like, you know, the guys I went to high school with. They were into hockey. They were into baseball. They were like, "What the hell is this? Guys dressing up like Batman? What kind of circus you running here?" So the next thing, the show happens. We had George Perez. We had Rich Buckler. We had Lee Weeks. We had the best lineup you can imagine. Klaus Janson. You wouldn't believe all the people that showed up. The line went out the door on opening day. The mayor came and gave Batman the key to the city because I arranged this big publicity stunt. The line went out the door, down the street, about a mile down the road. I'm not kidding you. Underneath the train tracks that came in, the guy that ran the facility was floored. He said, "Oh my God, this isn't a freak show. This is a gold mine. There's like 14,000 people out here." I said, "Yeah." The first thing he does after that show's over is double my rent. He said, "What did I charge you?" I said, "This much." He goes, "Okay, it's double." I said, "See you later, buddy." And then the Mohegan Sun, which you so lovely described, it's fantastic. They saw it in the papers. They saw the line. They picked up the phone. They said, "How would you like to bring your show to our beautiful casino resort?" I said, "You got it." And now the rest is history. I've been there since 2015. And Mike, last time you were there, I don't think we were at the Expo Center. Were you there in 2018?
The Expo Center is that huge
like an airplane
adjunct
hangar.
that's obviously designed for trade shows, right?
Yeah. They
Yeah,
they
we
have
were
the
there.
Miss America pageant there at Mohegan now. They have the Barrett Jackson auto auction, which is this massive worldwide car thing. So yeah, they built this 350,000 square foot venue for epic size conventions, and I filled it, and the rest is history. So that's it. So I don't know if that answers your question in a roundabout long way, but that's how I got into it. Love comic books, know how to do trade shows, put the two together, and I'm having the time of my life.
When did you start adding showbiz personalities?
Well, you know what? I was always hesitant for that because I always said I don't want to be one of those shows. I just want to be pure comic books. And it still works. I mean, the great shows like Baltimore Comic Con, Heroes Con, they're all pure comics. So most of my show now is like 75, 80% comic creators, but I have that small window because not everybody reads comic books. They all go to the movies. They all know Spider-Man and the Captain America from the movies, but they don't read the actual source material. So I started throwing some actors in about 7 years ago, 1 or 2, not the big guys. I can't afford that because it's just me in my bank account. So I would get like the extra guys who were in the big movies, but that was still cool. And folks came out and saw them. So yeah, I started adding that about 7 years ago. I mean, people expect it now. They want to know what celebrities come to the show. So.
I could swear I saw Henry Winkler there when I was
Henry
there.
Winkler was there. Yes, he was. Yes. Most successful guy I ever had, and one of the nicest people on the face of the earth, that fella.
Well, you're not too far from New York, too, so you can probably get...
Well, the year before Mike was there, Chaz Palminteri was here from Bronx Tale. Now, that's one of those things, like you said. The phone rings, and you hear, "Hello? Is this Mitch?" "Yeah, this is Chaz." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know who that is or what that means." I go, "Chaz who?" He goes, "Palminteri, Bronx Tale." "Oh, yeah, hi, what's going on?" "I heard about your little comic thing. I want to try it out, so I'm coming up." "Okay, give me a table." "All right." So that's what it's like because you're so close. It's like the old Johnny Carson show. You don't know who's going to come walking through. And we've had Alice Cooper stop by. I can't think of the guy that was married to Pam Anderson, the drummer. Tommy.
The guy from Motley Crue.
Yeah, Motley Crue. That's it. Yeah. Because a lot of them play at the Mohegan Sun. There's a big arena attached to the convention casino. So while we're doing our show, there's other stuff going on. So you get celebrities come walking through there at any moment. They're like, oh, there's, Kiss is in town tonight. Oh, there's a comic show. And Gene Simmons loves Neil Adams. Next thing you know, Gene Simmons might be walking through the show just because he wants to check out comic books, So you never know who's going to pop in. And Chaz Palminteri was hysterical because he walks in and we had Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, who were doing the Batman book and was really big at the time. And he goes and he sees their line, which is like 400 or 500 people long. And he goes, who the hell are those guys? The Beatles? I said, no, that's Capullo and Snyder. They do Batman. He goes, Batman? You mean like the comic book? I said, yeah. He goes, are you effing kidding me? I'm like, no. He goes, these guys are like effing rock stars. I go, yeah. And his line's like, 5, 10, 15 people. It's okay.
Yeah.
And he was just floored by that. He just goes, effing funny books. And he just walks back to his table and sat there. So.
Bellator has been holding their tournaments in that arena for a long time.
Yep.
That's how I first learned about the Mohegan Sun.
Oh, yeah. It's been around 25 years. They just celebrated their anniversary. And like I said, it's a huge, huge entertainment venue in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's all New Englandy, clouds and mountains and streams and beautiful landscape. And then you see this glowing light coming out from over the hill. And there's the Mohegan Sun. And it's like you're going to another world sometimes.
So, did you have one this past year?
We did. We came back. We had it on July 30th to August 1st. We were right at the middle of the summer when there was nothing really going on. There was no Delta variant starting up and everybody was cool again. There was no mask. Everybody was back. And then right after August, things started getting a little weird again around the country. So, but we were fortunate. We didn't have any trouble at all.
How does it look for 22?
I got the dates, July 29th to July 30th, 2022. I'm Catholic, so I cross my fingers and light candles all the time, hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. That's what we do. So,
man. So is it right? Do you have any idea like how many days or whatever it's going to be at this point? Like how many, is it going to be a 3-day con or?
Yeah, it's a 3-day show. They've been 3-day shows since I did that hockey show back in 2014.
Yeah.
Never looked back.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if you if you had to scale down or if you were going to even try to add like another day or something. Or...
No, you know what? The only scaling down I had to do was this year because of the safety protocols. We had to have wider aisles and more space between people because they wanted to have some social distancing. So I eliminated an entire section of dealer tables to the detriment of my bank account because I could have sold those spaces. But I said, I'd rather have people safe and not worrying about people breathing on them. So we opened it up more. And that was the only really big change we had to do this year was this more floor space. But I don't know. That's a good question. I've had people beg me to, because it's a casino that never closes and it's open 24/7. People go, can't you keep this thing going till like midnight? So we do after hour show events. We do like movies and we do concerts and things like that. But I really think some of the fans would be shopping 24/7 if we just opened the doors and said, here you go. There's the convention. Go knock yourself out. But people like Mike got to get their beauty sleep. I got to have Jerry Ordway in bed by 10 o'clock or he's going to turn into a pumpkin. You can't keep guys going 24/7. And besides, Billy Tucci and the rest of them, they all want to hit the tables. They all want to go gamble. Yeah. All right. They've been drawn all day. They got some pocket money and they want to go blow it on craps tables. That's how it goes around there.
Yeah.
What was your biggest crowd?
This year, actually, believe it or not, the biggest crowd we had was this summer. And I was like thinking maybe 2,000 people would show up with all the craziness going on. There was like 20-something thousand people.
Wow.
And that's real people. And here's another thing I don't know if you guys know about this. There's two types of counting in the world. There's turnstile numbers. Turnstiles are those little metal things you go through like for the subway and it counts you when you go through.
Yeah.
And then there's like actual tickets. I live in the world of tickets. Like how many physical bodies bought a ticket to go there? A lot of these other shows like to make themselves feel big So they go, well, we had 50,000 people. And then you talk to the fire marshal. He's like, that place only holds 12,000 people. So where's that come in? Well, the turnstiles.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Well, you go out and get a hot dog, or you go out to the bathroom, you go out to your car. You're now counted as 3 or 4 people, even though you're still that one individual. So they kind of skew with the numbers to make themselves, everybody wants to be big. They don't want to be small,
Yeah.
So I'm telling you legit numbers. I don't know what the rest of them tell you.
Well, that's cool. How do you count your numbers? You said tickets.
Oh yeah, Ticketmaster.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that include do you include like any guests or anybody that's included with any of the other, like the comic?
Oh, I could people if you want to go that game. Yeah, we could add. Okay, I had so many vendors, so many guests.
Right.
They brought their wives. They brought their kids. I mean,
right. I mean, I'm just saying from a legit, like those are real people too. So it's like,
no, they count. You're right.
Yeah.
I've talked to some other show promoters, and they go, "You don't count all the vendors and people?" I go, "Oh, I guess so."
I mean, I wouldn't. It's just, but it's just cool that you.
That's like going to a ballpark. Do they count all the baseball players on the field, or when you go to a rock concert, do you count all the roadies and the sound guys too? With that,
Hey
man, I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. If they want to sit there and puff their chest up and have the old, who's bigger,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get it.
Is that so? So that's pretty much what you're doing, though. Is you mostly are focusing on comic stuff,
comics
and things like that, and then with a little sprinkling of some movie stars, TV stars, whatever.
If there are movie and TV stars there or voiceover people, they got to have some comic book connection.
Yeah,
they got to either have been in a superhero movie or a TV show or a comic book animated cartoon type of thing. Because I'll get people sending me guests like, hey. And Chaz Palminteri was an exception. I wasn't going to turn that guy down because I like living. I didn't want to end up in a river somewhere,
Yeah.
I was like, whatever you want, buddy. Sure. And Winkler was the same thing. I didn't call Henry. Henry called us and said, hey, I'm going to be in town. Would you mind if I came in for a couple days? I'm like, you going to say no to Fonzie? I'm like, no. Yeah. And people, I didn't think anybody would know him because I grew up in the 70s. I knew him as Fonzie. But this guy's written books. He's got movies. He's got Arrested Development. He had generations of fans at that show that year. So, crazy lines for Henry Winkler. Who knew?
Mitch, what do you do the rest of the year?
Nothing.
Yeah.
No, I used to design websites and do advertising, but this became such a full-time job. I started doing 2 shows. So I do a video game convention called GamerCon. Right. I do that in spring, and just to get something to do because I'm bored. And then TERRIFICon's in the summer, and Mohegan Sun and all the fans around here have been begging me to do a 3rd show. And I don't know what that's going to be. I've had people ask me to do soap opera shows, wrestling shows, horror shows, gangster shows, like people that were in gangster movies, have them come out. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a 3rd show based on something totally new. I don't know.
If I can make a suggestion, Kung Fu movie entertainment is huge, and that would probably draw a big crowd.
Oh,
especially
absolutely.
If you can get some of these. When I was at the con, Michael J. White was a guest.
Yeah, he was. I went to school with Michael. Yeah.
That's great. And, because he'd be another great guest, because he's made a number of outstanding martial arts movies. And Donnie Yen, he has residence in New York. I think he's in Hong Kong now, but there are a lot of guys who would come. And a lot of guys would come to see him, I know from experience.
Oh, Michael J. is a great guy. Like I said, I went to college with Michael, and he's got like 8 black belts. He's like a martial artist, and he has like dojos and stuff. And he actually just opened a movie production company here in New Haven, Connecticut. He came back last summer, and he's trying to make movies around here in the area. So he's a great guy. And you're right. He could kick your ass 6 ways to Sunday. You know what's funny? Ron Garney, who's the artist, and it was in one time at one place in New Haven, Connecticut, in Southern Connecticut University, there was Ron Garney, Michael J. White, and myself, all like within a class. And who knew we'd all be together years later at this comic convention I do. And I still talk about that because Garney's a bit of a martial artist himself. And he always goes, I could kick Michael J's ass any day. And the 2 of them have this like rivalry going. It's kind of funny to watch, like guys in their 50s, like, yeah, I'll kick your ass. No, I'll kick your ass. So maybe we'll have that next time you come, Mike. We'll have artists versus actors, and we'll have a ring set up.
I know a number of artists who'd like to get in on that.
Yeah.
we'll start putting bets down now. I'm thinking Howard Chaykin could take a couple people. You'd be surprised, you know.
Guy Dorian Sr.
There you go. I just saw a guy over at the Baltimore show. He was across the table from us, so he could do it.
Oh yeah, and who's the guy that does the horror Marvel stuff? The zombie artist, Arthur.
Oh,
Soidan.
Arthur Sudham?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Arthur. Oh, you don't want to get in a fight with Arthur. He'll take you out. He'll make you look like a zombie quicker than you can say, "Get out of my way."
Yeah, the guy who played Darth Maul too.
Oh, I've had him. Ray Park.
Yeah.
He's been a guest at my show.
He's cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
I'll write a book one day about all the behind the scenes.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be really cool. Do you have any stories you want to share that won't get you in too much trouble?
Let's see. Well, you know what? I got a story that's a really cool one. The year before Mike was there, 2017, our special guest was supposed to be Adam West. And he was 88, 89. And he said this was his final tour. He wanted to retire. And he had filmed a bunch of commercials for me in March promoting his appearance that summer. And then we heard he got diagnosed with leukemia. And then 2 months before the show, I had just dropped off 40,000 flyers at Mohegan Sun, posters and postcards, all promoting the original Batman coming to TERRIFICon this summer. And then the news came, he passed away. He passed away from leukemia complications. That was like, you wouldn't believe how depressed everybody was because we were so looking forward to seeing Adam West. He's a cool guy. I had Burt Ward there, Lee Merriweather. I was going to get Julie Newmar. We were going to do a whole salute to Batman.
Yeah.
So we had the after hours show planned. And instead of doing it with the Q&A with Adam West, we turned it into a tribute, like a memorial. So we had all the actors come on and talk. What was it like to work with, Adam West and what he was behind it. So I realized I had all this footage on my phone of Adam West fooling around, joking with me, filming these commercials, saying that he was going to be at Mohegan Sun. So we do the whole bit. Burt Ward talks about him. Lee Merriweather talks about him. We have a singer come on in a tuxedo with a Batman mask on and sing "Ain't That a Kick in the Head" like an old Dean Martin number. It was fantastic because it's a real cosplayer that we have that comes to the show who dresses like the 66 Batman, but he's also a Bobby Darin singer. His name's Bob D. Simone.
Great.
So at the very end of the show, we had a replica of the Batcave, and we had that little red phone, the hotline that the commissioner would call. So I was saying, well, everybody, thank you for coming out here. I'm sure I hope you had a great time. I wish Adam was here, but things happen. And then the phone lights up. And I walk over to the phone, and I pick it up, and I go, hello? Oh, okay, sure. And I go, can we turn down the lights? There's a special message here. And then a big movie screen was behind me. And up on the screen comes Adam West. And he says, hey, everybody, this is your old pal, Adam West. And I'll see all you good citizens this summer at the Mohegan Sun. And then I said, well, Adam West, he would never let his fans down. And true to his word, he was here. And the place, you could hear a pin drop. And the lights came up. And all I saw was people, grown men, bawling their eyes out with tears running down their face. And I remember Burt Ward came up to me. He said, can we replicate this? I go, what do you mean? He goes, we want to take this on the road because this was amazing. I'm like, nah, this was one of those special moments, one time only.
Yeah,
that was it. And they never did it again. And it was at my show. We did that tribute. But that was one of the coolest things I've done in the last 10 years of doing these shows is having a tribute to Adam West. Everybody really enjoyed that. But
was there
I've had weddings at the show? I've had proposals at the shows.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been a lot of babies conceived at the show, not on the floor, but maybe back in their hotel rooms. I hope.
Oh, it's that kind of show. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. It's a casino. There's a lot that happens there. What stays at Mohegan Sun?
Do you have cosplayers?
We have those folks too, and that I've seen amazing outfits there. I've seen guys dressed as the Hulkbuster Iron Man suit. It's like a 10-foot tall robot looking thing. And every year we have a contest on Sunday afternoon, and it's amazing the skill and the craftsmanship these folks have when it comes to coming up with these costumes. I don't know how they get through the door, half of them, but
Yeah.
It's something.
in parts,
Yeah.
in pieces.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, the biggest thrill of it all, because I'm such a comic book fan, and I mean, literally, I'm sitting here in the basement, and behind me, there's like 20, 30,000 comics in long boxes.
Yeah.
My wife wished they weren't here, and I got books by guys like Mike Barron on my shelf. I don't know what the hell that's about, you know.
Yeah.
So I get
Smart.
these folks at my show because I'm such a fanboy. I'm walking around. I'm calling him Mr. Neil Adams yells at me because I still call him Mr. Adams. I go, Mr. Adams, can I do you for anything? He's like, I've been coming here for 8 years. You can call me Neil. I'm like, no. It's always Mr. Adams. And I've had like Jose Delbo. I've had Jose Garcia Lopez comes almost every year. And these are like legendary folks for me growing up. We had Joe Giella, who's like 94 years old, coming there. He's an inker on all the DC Batman books and stuff since like the 50s and the 60s. And you don't understand what a thrill it is to be in a room with these folks that made these books that I grew up reading from the 70s, 80s, 90s, whenever. And that's really it. I mean, I'll keep doing these until they tell me stop doing them, because there's so many more people I want to meet. I've got a list a mile long of, like, you know, Bill Sienkiewicz, Brian Boland. You know, there's people I want to come to the show. And not only me, I can tell the fans want to meet them, because a lot of these big shows nowadays don't cater to the artists and writers that I grew up with, because they want the young hot guys. And that's great. They want, you know, the heavy hitters, you know, the number one book at DC or Marvel. That's great. But there's so many decades worth of talented people that they just don't call in anymore. And it's such a shame, you know. I go out of my way to go find, like, where can I get a hold of Mike Kaluta? Where can I get a hold of Frank Bruner? Where can I get a hold of Charles Vess? All these folks that I've read for years, you know, Boris Vallejo. I'd like to have Boris at my show. And people like,
you know, you mentioned Jose Delbo, and I ran into him a couple of times several years ago at cons, and Jose was not having a great time of it, you know.
Yeah.
He was not in great demand. But then, I think it was either this year or last year, he put a couple of NFT for sale, and he cleared over $2 million.
Yep. Good for him. I saw that too. Yeah.
He's one of the first guys to jump on the NFT bandwagon.
Yeah, no, Jose was great. I don't know. Like I said, I wish I could do these shows more than once a year, but there's a hell of a lot of planning to do. There's a lot of,
I'm sure,
logistics. There's a lot of schedules. I mean, I got to work with folks' vacation schedules, especially in the summer. A lot of times I'll have, like, Rob Liefeld was going to come last year, and he couldn't at the last minute because he had his family, his kids going to college, and people have families and lives. I don't know if fans realize that, but outside of drawing and writing comic books, they actually go to the grocery store and the movies, and they live like everybody else. And sometimes they just can't make it. But, you know, I'm plugging along. I'm trying to get them all here.
Yeah,
I got a checklist of who I want.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think Steve Rude you wanted to get him last year, but dude he's sick of traveling by airplane. I don't blame him either. You know, he's very anti-mask, and I don't blame him for that either. He had the COVID recently. He's recovered.
Yeah. No, he was planned, like you said, he was planned, and I remember he was the logistics were, could you guarantee that he didn't have to wear a mask? I said I really couldn't at that point, because every day it was changing. You know, they were like locking down. You can only have so many people. You have to wear a mask. You don't have to wear them. I said let's just call it off, because I don't want to promise you something I couldn't deliver, and then, you know, things change at the last minute. But someday Steve will get through here, I hope, because he's another one. It wasn't just the Badger and the Nexus and all that stuff. I think it was Nexus he did with you. It was a red cover.
Yeah.
Wasn't that his first one with you? Yeah, I have it here somewhere. But then I loved all his work on The World's Finest he did for DC.
Yeah.
And he's just got a style. It's kind of like an Alex Toth meets Jack Kirby, and then he does his own unique Steve Rude thing to it, which is just
a lot of people don't know that among his commissions, he does a lot of special commissions for people who have done work for him, and he's done a couple on the Rat Pack, and I'd like to show those to you now, because hardly anybody's ever seen him. I'm putting them up in Mitch. I'm putting them up on this Facebook feed. The first one is up. I'm going to get the second one right here. Let's see if we can show those to the people, because it's quite a change.
Yeah, let me try to grab it. Stop it.
I collect pictures of the Rat Pack. I'm a big
Do you?
Rat Pack fan. Yeah.
I was just listening to the Rat Pack Christmas album the other day.
Oh, that's a great record.
Oh, I put it on. I said the perfect album to listen to when you're rapping bodies. I mean, presents. That's it. Presents. Yeah, presents. I'll tell you what, Mike. You should see Steranko walking around that casino. Talk about the Rat Pack. We had him there in 2019, and we had a dinner with Steranko. It was supposed to go from 8 o'clock to 11. It started at 9 and went to 2:30 in the morning because everybody was exhausted. And the only one who was still standing was Jim Steranko. And you know what he does when it's all over? Let's go out to the casino. And he's going down the escalator with the turtleneck and the double-breasted suit and the hair and the shoes. And he's walking up to the craps tables. I swear to God, it looks like any minute Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy are going to pop up next to him and like, hey, what are we doing here, buddy? Let's go, cat. He was in his element walking around that casino. I'm like,
yeah, Jim always dresses sharp.
Yeah. No, it's something else. The Rat Pack. That growing up, that was my grandma's favorite stuff. The Dean Martin album. Yeah. Every other kid was listening to, like, I don't know, Jethro Tull and Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, and I had to hear Everybody Loves Somebody Sometimes when I come home and my grandma was like, put Dean back on. Okay.
Yeah, I used to think it was really corny, but now I love the guy.
Oh yeah, go watch some of the old Dean Martin Christmas specials. They're hysterical. They're all up on YouTube or Amazon or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you Google, or not Google, if you go on YouTube and say Rat Pack, all sorts of stuff comes out. I did it the other night, and I saw the Rat Pack musical, which is a stage show in London with a guy with a cast that sings the parts. The cast didn't look a whole lot like the Rat Pack, but their impressions were right on.
Yeah, no, I wish there's something I could have seen. I was on my honeymoon like 30 years ago, and Joey Bishop. We were in Hawaii, and he was there. And my wife's like, why are you so? I'm like, that's Joey Bishop. She's like, what's the deal? I go, he was with the Rat Pack. She's like, what? How old are you? I'm like, 27, but you know, I knew all these guys. I'm like, Mr. Bishop, what a pleasure to meet you. I was like, thanks a lot. And he had the rings everywhere and the gold chains, and he was by the pool with a big drink. And I was like, that's Joey Bishop.
You know, HBO put out a Rat Pack movie, and it starred Ray Liotta as Frank Sinatra and Joe Mantegna as Dean Martin. And the movie was so, but Joe Mantegna absolutely nailed Dean Martin.
Yeah. I had the good fortune of meeting Peter Lawford's son. He was at some charity benefits a couple times up in state New York. He passed away young, like 61 years old. Yeah, look at that. You know, that's Rude's work. It looks a lot like, you remember the artist Richard Amzell?
Sure.
He did a lot of like covers for TV Guide. He just famous for the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie posters and such. Yep. That's got that photorealistic art illustration style there, you know? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know Steve does that. I always think of him as like superhero guy, you know?
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's a funny story. You guys all seen Enter the Dragon?
Yeah.
You all know who Bob Wall is? Okay, so dude is crazy about Bruce Lee and anything Bruce Lee. So he contacted Bob Wall, and they struck up a conversation. And then Bob hired him to do a portrait of his wife, and dude did that. So one day, dude calls me up, and he says, "Man, I can't take it anymore." And I said, "What?" He says, "Bob Wall, he won't leave me alone." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "He calls me every day. He calls me every day, and he just talks shit. I don't know what he wants." And so I said the other day, "Bob, why do you call me every day?" And he said, "I'm just fucking with you, Steve."
That's just craziness.
Hey, you know, Bob Wall's 80 years old. He's a millionaire through real estate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but apparently he has a lot of time on his hands.
No. You know what? You say the karate kung fu convention. There's nothing like that out there at all?
Oh, there have been martial arts conventions in California. I know I have a friend who goes to several of them, and you get an opportunity to meet your stars.
Right.
You know, and but yeah, if you just do a search for martial arts conventions, you'll get a list, but they're not that prevalent, and I certainly don't know of any on the East Coast.
No. A guy I know that you might know, Richard Myers. He used to write all those books about kung fu movies. He hangs out with Renee.
Rick Myers.
Rick Myers. Yeah,
Not to be confused with Richard Myers, your boy Zach.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Nice.
Yeah, I know Rick.
His full name. Yeah. He and I have known each other since the 80s because he used to work at some bookstores up here, like comic shops and stuff, and we would see each other. He was actually the Santa Claus at the local mall for a long time.
He's always Santa Claus.
Yeah, and I used to tell him he looked like he fell off a charm bracelet because he had this long white beard and this like the whole outfit. I said, "You look like Confucius from those old like remember when we were kids? They used to have those like candies. There'd be like a fortune inside. He started turning into those like old wizened fortune teller looking guys, but he would know everything. In fact, I should just ask him if I was going to put together a martial arts convention. He would know everybody. You need to do the wushu type of art. He knows all this stuff, like like he's reading the newspaper. It just comes out of his head naturally. So
you could tie some of the comic stuff in too.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially if you could get anybody from the Shang-Chi movie.
Well, I did have Iron Fist. The guy that started as Iron Fist and the young actress that starred as Colleen Wing.
Yeah.
But no one liked that. No one liked the show. It premiered that week.
Yeah.
And I had Iron Fist, and everyone was like, I don't like that show. I'm like,
the second season was great.
The second season was great. That's what I said. And it was really shaping up for a nice third season.
Yeah.
When he was getting the guns.
Yeah.
The Iron Fist guns. Yeah. And then they canceled it. So.
Second season
Jones, that's his
night and day. Yep.
Yeah, nice guy.
So I should watch the second season.
The second season, yeah. The first season, take a pass. Don't even bother.
All right.
The second season was really good.
It's more like a soap opera. The first season, there's not a lot to it. I think they ran out of money and they put their not greatest writers and people and stuff on it. But the second season, like I could, as a writer, like I could tell. I mean, it's just a lot more snappy. The way the characters reacted, and even just the situations of just like you had like the dinner. There's the dinner scene in there where they had like, where it's basically like four people that kind of want to kill each other sitting down and eating dinner.
We might have to take that 1-2 minute break.
Oh, here he goes. Go, Whizzer.
I'll be right back. My dog's screaming. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll be right back too. Jeff, you got to carry on.
Hey, no problem. I will share the Steve Rude complains about the other guy. I'm telling you, man, I can't get Mike to stop calling me. He just calls me, and he doesn't use the phone as much as he uses Facebook, the Facebook calling thing, because it's just easy, but it sounds terrible. But
sorry about that. And it was a false alarm.
Hey.
My chocolate lab Harley Quinn is just barking at nobody upstairs. So
yeah. Wow.
That's what happens when you work from home. Thanks, COVID. Everybody's in their house now. So you've had to take your home and turn it into an office and turn it into a movie studio. It's like everything in one,
Oh, yeah. Everybody's. I mean, the good thing is people are getting used to it, so at least we can do
stuff
that's like true. This a little bit easier because people are used to it. But
you don't see CEOs of companies freaking out when their kid walks through the shot or their dog's barking in the background. Now it just happens.
Yeah, it's fantastic too. I don't know if you saw it, but the COVID movie that's on Netflix, the Stuck Together movie. It's a French movie. And it is freaking hilarious. It's very sharply written, and it's mostly a comedy. It kind of starts a little serious, ends a little serious, but everything else is just it makes fun of the absurdity of just like everybody's different responses. It just like and just the situations they have, and it goes through because like one of the ladies, it like deals with this apartment building. But one of the ladies is a lawyer, and then she's trying to have a meeting with the judge and stuff, and then her husband is freaking out in the background, and there's all this stuff going, and then other people, like there's just one thing after another that's that's crazy, and there's like a bar downstairs, and they have or right next door, and she doesn't have any customers because of the pandemic and everything. And then one of the kids, she's offering this kid a drink, and he says, he's like, "Oh, this smells like hand sanitizer," and he puts it on. It's like mint schnapps or something. He like puts it on his hands. So then she starts rebranding all her alcohol as hand sanitizer. And there's like, oh my gosh, there's so much like just hilarious stuff in it. It's really
what
good.
I find myself doing, no matter what interview, or if it's me, or if I'm watching TV or they're interviewing some doctor or whatever, I start looking at the books on their shelves.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like nosy about that. Like, oh, what's he reading? Oh my god, hey, she's got a comic book. And there's this one doctor that would come on like NBC to talk about the COVID. And I'd look in the background, and she'd had graphic novels amongst all her other books. And I would tell my wife, look. Look what she's reading over there. And she's like, how do you know that's not her son's room? I go, oh, you got to ruin everything. You know?
I know.
Really because I'm like, hey, that's cool, man. Look, she's got the Punisher on the wall. I didn't think she was a Punisher fan, but
have you seen the new Punisher logo?
What, they've changed the logo on the Punisher?
Yeah, so it's less offensive.
No.
How could it? Wait, you're talking about a guy
who could possibly be less offensive? Let me show you. I think I can.
I didn't know anything about this now.
Is it just it's a?
What's it, a daisy now? They made like a flower in this
logo.
No,
it's a stylized thing that it looks peculiar.
Interesting.
I don't know. You can't rewrite some characters. Leave them alone.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of talk that they're about to do away with the Punisher because it's just too offensive. Here it is.
Well, it is weird to be owned by Disney.
Well, they owned this movie I keep talking about with Patrick McGowan. Remember this? He was like the Scarecrow or something in the. It was like a vigilante guy in the 50s. I can't remember what it was called, but it was kind of like he'd go out at night on a horse and dress as this like a scarecrow type of guy. And he was like Zorro, but it was out in the middle of the woods. I can't remember what the show is, but it's not on Disney Plus. I've looked for it. So
take a look at that logo. It's on the Facebook.
It's. I don't know that that's less offensive personally. It's more stylized, I think, like you said.
Well, I think they're trying to rebrand the character. Either that, or they're just going to stop publishing. Say, the Punisher has outlived his usefulness. He's simply too offensive for today.
No, there's a whole bunch of people that would never let that happen. That's still a popular character after all these years, you know.
Well, if handled right, I agree.
And
but I haven't been reading the comics, so I have no idea.
No, the show was great. The first season,
I love the
Punisher.
Show.
The second season, I wasn't a big fan of the Netflix one because it went all over the place. But
I still liked it though.
If they kept that show where he was like the paladin going from town to town, getting stuck in the situation, and then he'd become the Punisher and kick someone's butt and save them, I think it would have worked great, like an old style Western, like they did that Mandalorian show. Except it's in space, but he just goes traveling around and, you know, he's saving folks every week. But they turned it into this big political conspiracy in the second season. It was all over the place. So, and that guy, John Bernthal, he's great as the Punisher. I mean, they got a great actor for that character. I like Frank.
He is a good actor. He's a good Punisher, but the Punisher is like 6'2" or 6'3".
Oh, well, there's that. Well, he's not Thomas Jane. I'll tell you that. When you look at all the different ones they've had, the Dolph Lundgren, you know who was really good? The big guy, the Irish fella they had in the war zone.
Ray Stevenson.
Yeah.
He was a great Punisher. The movie wasn't very good, but he was a great Punisher. I would like to see Scott Adkins take over the role. I think he'd be perfect.
What's he in?
Well, he's in Undisputed 2, 3, and 4. He's a British martial artist. He's been in a bunch of movies.
Who would be good too? Frank Grillo. You know Frank Grillo?
Oh, yeah, Frank Grillo.
Yeah.
I've thought of that before, too. Grillo actually just looks exactly like you imagine the Punisher.
Yeah, no, I try to get him because the show I did in Bridgeport, I had this guy named Maximiliano Hernandez. He was in this movie called Warrior with Grillo.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it was, and he was also Agent Sitwell, like the double Hydra agent in the Captain America picture. They threw him out of a car and killed him. But he was my guest there. One of the coolest guys ever. Took the train in from Brooklyn or the Bronx, hung out, did the show, met fans, never charged anybody for an autograph, never charged anybody for a photo, just hung out with everybody for 3 days, and then got in the train and went back to New York City. I was like, that's a cool guy. No, that's not true.
That looks like Alien
It
Punisher.
looks like, it looks like Daredevil with horns.
I know. It's ridiculous.
I don't know. That I mean, they own Predator now too. It almost looks like he's hunting a predator.
Yeah, they may repurpose him so that no living thing is harmed.
Yeah, no, that looks like Wolverine's mask or something, you know? Yeah. I don't know about that.
That's weird. He's hunting Wolverine.
Hey, Mike would know this. When I was a kid, I could have swore that the Punisher sometimes would shoot rubber bullets called mercy bullets. Did that
That's
ever
news
happen?
To me. That's news to me. I mean, it may happen.
No, I don't know. I've never people think I'm making this up. I could have swore I read one story in the 70s where if you were like a cop or somebody he didn't want to kill,
but
he wanted to stop you, he would hit you with like a rubber bullet just to like stun you. Maybe he didn't want to kill a cop or anything.
It's possible. I wouldn't know. I took over the Punisher in 1987, I believe.
Okay, I'll ask Hama. I think maybe Larry Hama did. And I've never been able to find the story, but maybe I was thinking of a different character. But who knows? Rubber bullets.
I'm looking up right now. They're saying that he did.
Yeah, it was called mercy bullets.
Yep.
So he wouldn't kill you; it would just basically knock you out. So.
Does it say what issue?
Looking it up. Interesting.
It was one of Mike's.
I think it's actually I think he first did it in Amazing Spider-Man number 129.
His first appearance. There you go.
Yeah, Jerry Conway.
Yep. Who's going to be at TERRIFICon this summer? Jerry Conway.
What a
guest
segue.
Announcement there. Exclusive.
He's so smooth. Yeah, and then there are.
That's when he was wearing those white go-go boots too. So we'll let that go.
Yeah.
That of course, John Romita's senior design.
Those looked okay when Klaus Janson drew them.
Yeah.
Of course, most things look okay when Klaus Janson draws them.
Did you know? Speaking of Santa Clauses, did you know Klaus Janson was the Santa Claus at Gimbals?
No.
Oh wow.
Gimbals. There was Macy's and Gimbals. They were like competing stores. Macy's still around, but Gimbals is long gone. Right. But when I had Klaus as my guest in Bridgeport, Connecticut here, he goes, I grew up in Bridgeport. He goes, in fact, I was Santa Claus at Christmas time at the Gimbals department store down the street. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
He'd have to wear a lot of padding.
He did. Oh, yeah. He was not what you'd picture for a typical Santa. He's very thin.
No, when you want Santa, you hire Rick Myers.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Neil Adams could pull it off back in the day. But that's another story.
Well, only if with, complete makeup and a white beard and stuff. I mean,
you to Chris Claremont and some others.
Oh no, maybe? Claremont, no, he couldn't pull it off. He would talk the kids to death.
Right.
What do you want for Christmas? Let me tell you about the time, and they're like, "Oh my god!" 3 hours later. That honestly, people love Chris Claremont, my show, but that was the biggest complaint. He had the longest lines because he would talk 10 to 15 minutes with every single fan, which is great.
Right.
But when there's 300 or 400 people times 15 minutes, it suddenly becomes a marathon. And I got people like, will he please to stop? I want to get my autograph.
Yeah. Do you do anything like give out like tickets or anything like like numbers for people so they can not stand in line?
Just got to stand in line.
Yeah.
Well, we have like some people that if they're VIP, they get like a fast pass. They can only use it once a day.
Yeah.
So if they come in and there's like a humongous line for this Donnie Cates, we had long lines for him.
Right.
You're allowed to cut the line like in Disney World for one guest, and that's it. So it comes in handy sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, hey, if people are willing to do it and you can make a little money on it and help fund everything else.
Yeah.
Are there any like crazy things you had to deal with like whatever it getting flooded or anything like crazy that you had to deal with?
I had a cosplayer who was completely naked once and said it was body paint. That was interesting.
A guy, right?
No, it wasn't a guy. It wasn't a guy. No, and my police officer friend who helps me out on the weekends for the show does security calls and says, "Hey, we got a problem." I said, "What's the matter?" He goes, "We got a naked person here." I go, "Well, you can't let him in." He goes, "Well, I know that, but they're in body paint, and they say that's a costume." I go, "Well, you're there. What do you think?" He goes, "That ain't no costume." I said, "Okay, well, let's get out of here." So yeah, they were dressed up as what's the
Mystique
X-Men character?
Mystique.
Mystique. That's I was going to say Raven, but Mystique. Yeah, with
Raven.
Blue.
Yeah.
Not happening. I got a PG-13 show. You know what I'm saying? I got little kids in there with their moms and their dads. We don't need to have mom and dad have to explain what's going on here afterwards. You know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if there's any fights. Well, here's a good one for you. And Mike knows more about this because he worked in the industry.
Yeah.
I had planned a panel with Neil Adams, Roy Thomas, and Tom Palmer to talk about their work on the Avengers in the late 60s. So the panel's planned. I'm going to gather the guys up to go upstairs to the panel room. And Neil's sitting at his table, and Roy comes walking by, and Tom Palmer's already on the way up there. So I go, "Hey, Neil, it's time to go to the panel." He goes, "I'm not going to that panel." I go, "Sorry, what now?" "I won't sit down with him." "What are you talking about?" And Roy just keeps going upstairs. And I go, "What's happening?" He goes, "He knows what he did." I go, What happened?" He goes, "1969. He said this to me, and we had a fight, and I've never." And I'm like, "What? That was like 48 years. That was 50 years ago. What are you talking about, man? You didn't sell me anything. I got this 2:00 panel. There's a room full of people waiting to hear. I won't go to it. Sorry, not doing it." So I go upstairs. There's Tom Palmer and there's Roy Thomas. And I sit down and Roy looks around and goes, "Is Neil coming?" I go, "No." He goes, "He's still mad about that thing." I go, "Oh my God, why didn't you tell me this?" And then Tom Palmer keeps looking over like, "Is Neil coming anymore?" I go, "Shut up, Tom." So he just keeps looking around for Neil. But talk about angry old men.
Yeah.
We're talking about these guys are holding grudges against people. I've had some people that I can't mention that say, "Don't put me in eyesight of this other guy or I'll start thrown down." And I just don't imagine 70-year-old guys just beating the hell out of each other on the floor of my convention, you know, because they've been mad at each other for 30, 40 years now. But that type of stuff happens.
More tickets for you.
It is. You know,
celebrity grudge match.
Yeah. It'll definitely be on the headline of CBR or Bleeding Cool, you know. Inkers battle royale. I've had guys steal tables from each other. That's always fun.
Oh, nice.
You know, I Arthur Soydam again. I hate to bring that up, but one year down here at I think it was at the Denver Comic Con or else Rocky Mountain Con, Art took over the table next to him because whoever had purchased the table hadn't made it on time. And it became a little international incident for about 24 hours.
See, it's that type of stuff, you know.
Right.
Well, and then I get to hear some interesting stories about characters that I grew up with. Sometimes it ruins the books. There's one artist writer who was with me, and I said, "I really like this character that you drew on the cover of the book." He goes, "Oh, I was tripping out on acid, and I was stuck in the back of a cab, and it was at a traffic light, and they were having a garbage strike in New York City, and I looked out the window, and these mounds of garbage bags were there, and that's what this thing looked like. So I went home and drew it and put it on the cover." I go, "Oh, okay." So every time I see this book now, I go, "Guy was tripping out on LSD when he drew that thing." So
interesting.
A lot of weird little behind the scenes stories that I don't think the average person knew. I'm like,
yeah, I got stories I can never tell.
Yeah. But they're good ones. But then there's ones that people heard. Like I said, when we had the dinner with Steranko, he went on for hours telling different stories. Some of them are true. And the better part was he apparently got in a fight with Bob Kane. This infamous fight, he slapped him. The creator of Batman. They were in an elevator or something. Yeah.
Wow.
He was taking credit for all of Bill Finger's work, and Steranko just give him a pop to the face.
That's a famous story. I've heard Jim tell it.
Yeah. So there's that one. And then there's a famous story about somebody not getting paid at Marvel. And I don't know what the deal is, that somebody got hung outside the window by their ankles until they got paid. Now, I've heard different stories of different people who did it. I heard it was Vinnie Coletta, one of the inkers there, that did it. I heard it was Steranko at one point. So I don't know where the truth lies and who was holding somebody out the window for a paycheck, but that type of stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
Know.
Well, that's a thing dealing with emotional, artistic people. They can definitely fly off.
There's a lot of egos involved sometimes. Yep. I used to be an art director. I used to have like 30 artists reporting to me, graphic designers and copywriters and that. Trust me, I'd come into that room someday in that studio. There'd be people beating the hell out of each other. It's like, what in the hell happened now? So, learned to deal with a lot of egos over the years, a lot of personalities and stuff. So,
well, I know we're getting to the end here. Is there anything else like you want to share with people about? I guess TERRIFICon is in July. Do you have?
Yeah, the end of July. Yeah, it used to be August, but I'm at the end of July now for the next couple of years. Come. You know what? Email me any guest suggestions you have, because honestly, I'm very selfish. I only bring in the people that I like.
Right.
And true, if you're at my show, it's because I've got your comics over the years and I like you, and that's why you're there. And you're off my checklist now. It's like, got him, got that guy. But a lot of folks, I don't read everything nowadays. I'm like Mike. I try to keep up with the new stuff, but there's so much of it, and there's so much TV and movies now with comic stuff. So there's only so many hours in the day. But there's a lot of good stuff out there that I'm not reading because I'm not exposed to it. But if people want to see certain comic book writers and creators, just drop me an email and say, hey, could you get
I
this
wish
stuff?
I could show you all the alternative publishing books I've received this year, because there are dozens of them.
That's great. You know what I love? Going through my artist alley where we have the newer creators, like the guys that are starting their own books. They're trying those. Some of the best stories out there are over there. Forget the big two. Forget Marvel and DC, because they seem to be regurgitating the same character stories every 5 years. It's the same stuff. Yeah. These younger guys, just when you think you've heard every story and there's no new stuff out there, they've come out with a perspective you never imagined, and they've reinvigorated, the old good guy, bad guy stuff. So a lot of great stuff coming out there.
Oh yeah. And and it sounds like you have a great location for it and everything too. So
you got to come out, man. You got to come out. You got to come out to the show. Come up to Connecticut. New England's been missing you ever since you left New Hampshire.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have Mike there, somebody's got to bail him out of Mohegan Jail. They have their own court system on the tribe, on the reservation there. They have their own court, their own judge.
That's true. Yeah, because
you could be serving time in Mohegan Jail right now. We don't know what's going on.
That would be cool. That's like a once in a lifetime opportunity there.
To get arrested,
serve time in the Mohegan
tribal police. Yeah. No, he wrecked his room like a rock star. He did it proud. You'd be surprised the stuff that happens there.
Oh, nothing.
Some people can't come back. You know what's the story we forgot to tell you about the Batcopter? You know the Batcopter, the one from the '60s show.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that owns it said he was going to bring it to my show, and I assume it's going to be on a trailer, like a truck. And I'm like, all right. So I get a call, and they said, what time's the guy supposed to be here? I said, about 11 o'clock. And I'm on my way up there. And there's only one highway that goes up to the Mohegan Sun. And my friend calls and goes, hey, he's here. And I didn't see any truck drive by me with the helicopter. You would notice that, I said, where? I didn't see him come by. He goes, no, he's here. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, the Batcopter's coming in for a landing. And there's a helipad at the Mohegan where they have all the really rich actors and gamblers come in and such. So here comes the Batcopter unannounced. And next thing you know, Mohegan's police force was up there with their guns drawn. They didn't know if there was a terrorist attack or what. And it was this guy with his Batcopter, and he landed, and they're calling me, and the newspapers are there, like, the Batcopter lands at Mohegan Sun. That made the news that day. So.
Oh man. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that would be
you got to understand,
unnerving.
The U.S. sub base is up here in Groton, where they make the nuclear powered submarines, like about 10 minutes away from the Mohegan Sun. So to see a helicopter suddenly coming into their airspace when they didn't know what it was not the coolest thing. It's amazing it didn't get shot down.
Yeah, yeah,
That would have been something for the papers, Batcopter blown apart at convention.
yeah. It would have been another notch in your belt too, man.
Well, the guy that owned it has a brother that gets shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And he tells me about this. So I call Mohegan up. I go, hey, look, it's the 80th anniversary of Superman. They go, yeah. So what I'm thinking is we get his brother dressed as Superman and we put him in the cannon and we shoot him over the expo center. We'll put a net on the other side to catch him. And they're looking at me like, are you for real? I was deadly serious.
Yeah.
I wanted to see a man fly and hopefully land okay. But
did they show you how much the insurance would be to?
Pretty much, yeah. Insurance, if P.T. Barnum had insurance guys back in the day, he would have never became who he was. But,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a spectacle here. I want people to talk about it,
Exactly.
I want to get the human fly. You know who the human fly was?
Yeah.
That stuntman guy in the comics in the 70s?
Yep.
I want to find out what happened to him. Bring him back.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool. What are the best social media places for people to find you or to find TERRIFICon?
You could go to the Facebook TERRIFICon page and you can private message me or message me, whatever they call it there. And then there's the Twitter, it's TERRIFICon.
Okay.
And then it's just Mitch at CT Comic Con, which is on the website.
Cool.
There's all that other stuff like Instagram and all. I can't keep track of all this stuff because people go, I wrote your letter on Instagram. I go, do they have mail on that? I don't even know. My son just calls me a dinosaur. Don't overload, Dad. That's what he says to me. No, don't overheat. When I'm like trying to figure out how to do stuff, he's like, hey, you're overheating. Calm down, old man. Come on, Boomer. Sit down. No respect. No respect.
Yeah.
But no, that's it. Literally. I mean, I hope you make it out to the show. Mike, you come on back anytime. Come on up here and do.
Thanks, Mitch. Let me take a look at my schedule.
There you go.
Yeah, and send him a list of I'll send him a list too of different people's suggestions.
Yeah. They're always somebody you never heard of. I had a guy here. I can't pronounce his name right now. He was from France. He was in the area. Guardian. He just showed up. He was this famous French artist. He just came in for a couple of days.
Wow.
Like 2 years ago. I'll have to go back and look. But that's why
cool.
I said I like when people just drop in. We had John Byrne was almost supposed to come a couple years ago. Byrne was coming down to see Joe Sinnott because we gave Joe Sinnott a lifetime award. And Joe was there, and Byrne had worked with Sinnott in the 80s on the Fantastic Four, wanted to have dinner with him. So Byrne's on the highway headed to Mohegan Sun, but Joe was like 91, wasn't feeling well, so he wanted to go home. So we called and said, Joe's going home for the night. So Byrne turned the car around and went back to his house.
Yeah.
It's close to having Byrne show up. So that would have been cool. He's on my list.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
We'll get them all. We'll get them all someday.
Well, cool. Well, we will let you get back to work and let Mike to try to do some work and figure out this whole internet thing.
I'm working on it.
I love when I see Florida Man. Every time on the news, I think of Mike Barron.
Exactly. It's great.
I mean, it's
great marketing.
Florida Man today was found putting his private parts in a garbage disposal. Film at 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's probably a true story.
It's probably on tonight's news. What time is it? 11 o'clock. It's already happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I live in Florida. So I was actually born here. So I live here again. So I tell Mike that I get very offended by his Florida Man stuff.
Do you really?
I don't. I'm just
all a joke.
Harassing
you gotta
him.
laugh. You only got one time in this world. Let's have some fun while you're here. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's no second coming on this one. This is it. No dress rehearsal. You got one shot.
Ooh, I didn't mean to do that. Itchy trigger finger.
Yeah. Oh well, thanks for having me on. Have a great Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holiday, the whole work. And just keep reading comics and making them out there. And I gotta say, I like your background, JS. Look how nice and neat it is. I'm looking at some of the books you have on your shelf back there. Like, wow.
Yeah, I have some different. I have a variety of stuff. It looks worse than it normally does because I just.
Oh really?
I just switch things around. But
on
because
one
I
of
have
these Zoom calls with somebody, I'm waiting to see like a cheesy apartment in New York City and see a cockroach go by someone's wall in the background during one of those newscasts. That would be great. You know,
well, I'm in Florida, so it's
palmetto
you never
bugs.
know.
That's what they call them down there, right?
Yeah.
Palmetto bug.
Yeah, they're cockroaches with a suntan. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're pretty big.
All right. Well, anyway,
Okay.
thanks a lot, guys. And I'm still waiting for FedEx because they gave me a window of 9:30 to 3:30.
Great.
I know. I was like, not that I want anything to do during the day. So I'm literally, I walk the dog early and I'm sitting here by the door because I have to sign. I'm like, what the anyway, thanks, FedEx.
Bye, guys.
All right.
See you later.